Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning. I'm Katie Halper.
And I'm Aaron Maté.
And everyone like the stream. That's all you got to do. Just like the stream.
That's all I got
Just
to do.
like it. Just smash the like. Hit that like button. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I saw a movie and I'm going to talk about it on this week's Useful Idiots.
Wow.
Yeah, just a little preview.
Wow. That's a crazy tease.
Such a crazy tease.
This week on Useful Idiots, you're going to talk about a movie that you saw.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any great insights. Now I feel like I'm going to have to read up on it or something. But yeah, I did see a movie.
Can you tell us what the movie is now, or is that a surprise?
I feel like if I tell you what the movie is now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about when we tape this week is just going to be what the movie is. That's going to be big part of the content. Because I honestly don't have that much to say about it. So if I reveal the movie now, that'll be like 50% of the coverage.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I will say that it's related. It's related to something that's been in the news. That's what I'll say.
Fair enough. Well, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
All the more reason for everybody to join me in subscribing to Useful Idiots, because I'm not only a co-host, I'm also a subscriber.
Right. He's also a member.
usefulidiots.substack.com.
That's all you got to do, guys. You got. Yeah. Oh, in fact, Wilson, was Aaron's nickname in the main or the Substack only?
I think Substack.
Guys, if you want to know what Aaron's self-appointed nickname is, and the story behind it, almost behind the music, but not music, behind the nickname, that's just one of the many reasons you got to join Substack.
The exclusives are out of control. We've got Katie revealing a movie that she saw with limited insight into it, because really half of it is just revealing the movie. And then me telling you what my self-appointed nickname is.
Yeah. What's funny about it is that when you told me the story, you were like, oh, I was younger. And I was expecting you to say you were like 10, 15, but it was the 20s. Yeah.
It was the 20s. Yes.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
That is useful. Behind the Maté, it's true. Yes, I like the video. Was that useful? Yes, M-Ban. It was very useful. Thank you for that.
Well, from the 20s to a group of people that are always in the 100s, and I'm talking about the people who host our Sunday cable news shows and give us nonstop just 100s. 100%. Keeping 100s. Let's hit it.
Good Sunday morning. Happy Easter and happy Passover. In Kyiv and across the country, between air raid sirens.
Where's Ramadan? Notice that?
True.
He only put it to the Christian and Jewish faith, but he left out.
When was Ramadan?
Ramadan was still Sunday.
Oh, okay. Then that's really not okay.
Yeah.
Ramadan, you can't go from A to C. You know what I mean? You can't go from Judaism to Christianity. You got to go. Yeah.
And emergency curfews. Ukrainian Jews gathered with their families this weekend for Passover Seders. Refugees celebrated across Europe, having to say next year in Ukraine. This morning at St. Peter's Square, the Pope said the world is marking an Easter of war, with Ukraine dragged into a cruel and senseless conflict. And there were processions through Lviv this morning as Ukrainians marked Palm Sunday. Orthodox Easter is celebrated next week. But overnight explosions rattled Kyiv and Kharkiv, missile strikes in retaliation after Ukrainian missiles sunk the...
Sorry, I just have to point out it's even worse because he went through the different branches of Christianity.
Yeah. He's like the Orthodox.
Yeah.
Their Easter is next Sunday. Anyway, that's it. That's all the religions we need to go through.
Right. Seventh-day Adventists, they don't celebrate anything, I don't think, so skip them,
The flagship of Russia's fleet.
Oh, sorry, were you saying something?
No, just like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they've already done their thing.
Yeah. Well, they don't celebrate anything. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
But that's funny. He's like Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't celebrate. Yeah. They don't celebrate birthdays. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Do you know who's a Jehovah's Witness? Someone who I believe you like very much, musically speaking.
Musically speaking, the key being musically speaking. I think I know you're thinking of. Well, first of all, Michael Jackson was a big Jehovah's Witness.
He was?
Yeah, big time.
That's like
and
not.
I know, and then you're thinking of Prince. Prince also became for a bit. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Oh, just a bit. He just dabbled.
He dabbled. Yeah.
I just got to say about Jehovah's Witnesses, it's very unfortunate that they can't be politically involved because they really master the door knocking thing.
They're
They
very
could be
dedicated.
canvassers.
They're very dedicated. It's true. That's a
But
great
maybe that
point.
would take away from their spreading the Jehovah's gospel. That's what it is, probably. So they know that the door knocking would be diluted. It would be a door knocking distraction.
Yeah, but honestly, if you can harness the door knocking powers of the Jehovah's Witnesses, you could have a successful movement right there.
Right.
Anyone who can figure that out, you're gonna win.
Although I'm
Good
not
tip.
sure if they would want. I'm not sure what kind of political vision they have. So maybe it's good they don't do that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
All right, back to the Chuckster.
Yeah.
In the Black Sea. Real humiliating loss for the Russians. Now Russia is consolidating its forces in the east, staging attack helicopters at Ukraine's eastern border, and sending new soldiers and artillery for a long campaign. The governor of the Donetsk region says Mariupol has been wiped off the face of the earth by Russian forces. And Russia is warning of unpredictable consequences directly to the United States through diplomatic channels if the United States and NATO continue to arm Ukraine. What is that a pretext for? All of this after...
Chuck, it's a pretext for Russian soldiers landing on the shores of New York and California and invading us from all fronts.
And freezing us in Vermont. Is that where it's
And freezing us in the Dakotas. That's, again, shout out to Rachel Maddow, who warned us of that a few years ago when she warned that Russia during freezing winter in the U.S. could cut the power and heat to millions of Americans and freeze them to death.
Which reminds me of Vladimir Putin's theme song, I cut the power.
We're keeping it going. Last week we had another 90s inspired track called Pump Up Demand. That was inspired by Lord Summer.
Yeah.
You can catch last week's Monday morning if you missed that one. And this week we got I Cut the Power.
So good.
We could do a whole compilation.
Yeah, Useful Idiots brings you the hits, the biggest hits covers. By the way, make sure I wanted to give a shout out, Aaron, if you haven't retweeted this, make sure you retweet this. And I want to give a shout out to David McKinley, David Michael MC9, who tweeted out, coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern, this weekly show is a treasure. That was all caps. Useful Idiots Monday morning with Katie Halper and Aaron Maté. So, guys, you can not only you can tweet about us. It's wonderful. All the opportunities. Yeah. Okay.
The United States announced a new $800 million aid package that includes helicopters, Javelin missiles, and for the first time, much heavier artillery. But President Zelensky is still asking for more. In fact, he said this, when some leaders ask me what weapons I need a moment to calm myself because I already told them the week before. It's Groundhog Day.
Okay.
That's what he needs. What does he need? He needs more copies of Groundhog Day.
Exactly. And speaking of Groundhog Day, this is like the second time Zelensky's, this is not the second. This is like yet another time when Zelensky has come up with some really, sort of catchy line that I'm pretty sure was not written by him. Remember when there was that one where it was like, I don't need, the question was, is the U.S. going to evacuate Zelensky from the capital? And Zelensky was reported to have said, I don't need a ride, I need ammo, or something like that. And there's no way he wrote that. There's just no way. That was like written by some consultant. And I wouldn't be surprised.
He's been working with PR people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need a ride. I need reaction. The hits just keep on coming. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Aaron, make sure you tweet this out because you have such a large reach. Okay.
Tweeted.
Yeah. I cut you off. What were you saying?
No, it's fine. No. Anyway, thank you to Chuckster for teeing us up.
Yes.
Another great intro by him. He never fails to impress.
Yeah. It would be nice if next time we mention Ramadan.
Yeah, it would. But I don't see doing that.
CAIR, get on that. CAIR. I don't remember what they stand for, but they do very good stuff about Islamophobia.
Right. But I also think they might have more important things to do than lobbying Chuck Todd to mention Ramadan. I don't know.
That's up in the air.
You think it's the top priority? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some public remarks this week, you said.
So here we have Margaret Brennan of CBS's Face the Nation speaking to
The country needs to talk about when it might be willing to send troops to Ukraine. You said if the answer is
oh, okay. This
the
is
back.
Senator Chris Coons of Delaware.
Yeah.
Very wealthy man, close to President Biden.
Yeah.
And listen to what Chris Coons has to say about the possibility of getting directly involved in the Ukraine war.
He's also, by the way, the father of the young woman with like long red hair who looks a lot like him, actually, who was like a teenager. And there are these famous photos of Biden really creeping on her. And she's like recoiling.
God,
Really
who
awful.
hasn't Biden?
I know. Seriously.
Whose space has Biden not violated? It's
Not
unbelievable.
violated, yeah.
God. All right. Well, that hasn't impacted their close friendship because Coons and Biden are pretty
Right.
tight.
then we are inviting another level of escalation and brutality by Putin. Are you arguing that President Biden was wrong when he said
Let's start from the beginning because we cut it off. I just want to make sure people hear what he said, okay?
Margaret.
I know. He gets so angry. He interrupts
He's
her.
so pumped up and he starts talking as she's Margaret, pump up the, what was it? Pump up demand. Yeah, okay.
this week, you said the country needs to talk about when it might be willing to send troops to Ukraine. You said if the answer is never, then we are inviting another level of escalation and brutality by Putin. Are you arguing that President Biden was wrong when he said he would not send troops to Ukraine? Are you asking him to set a red line?
Margaret, I think those of us in Congress who have a critical role in setting foreign policy and in advising the president in terms of his decisions as commander-in-chief need to look clearly at the level of brutality. This is a moment of enormous challenge for all of us. And I deeply respect President Biden's leadership in pulling together the West, in imposing crushing sanctions on Russia, and in bringing to this fight countries that had stayed on the sidelines before. I think President Biden's leadership has been steady and constructive, but this is a critical moment. If Vladimir Putin, who has shown us how brutal—
So 1 second. That's like near Delaware on Delaware violence, right? We got one Delaware senator kind of avoiding, it's like a soft violence because he's trying to do both things at the same time. He's trying to praise Biden, but also basically saying he's not up to the job. He's not doing enough.
Well, he just wants to, I mean, as we'll see, he wants to send in troops.
Yeah.
brutal he can be, is allowed to just continue to massacre civilians, to commit war crimes throughout Ukraine without NATO, without the West coming more forcefully to his aid. I deeply worry that what's going to happen next is that we will see Ukraine turn into Syria. The American people cannot turn away from this tragedy in Ukraine. I think the history of the 21st century turns on how fiercely we defend freedom in Ukraine, and that Putin will only stop when we stop him. I'll close with this, Margaret.
So he says Putin will only stop when we stop him, and that is a oblique way of saying he favors U.S. military intervention. So basically sending other people's kids, not his, of course,
Right.
into war. And
Although maybe
basically
he
having
would send his daughter. He sent her into the Biden zone.
exactly, yes, she waged a different battle.
Yeah, exactly.
And when he talks about, he says, "I fear that Ukraine will turn into Syria." That's what he actually wants, because what was Syria? Syria was the U.S. flooding a chaotic war zone,
Right.
with billions of dollars worth of U.S. weapons, empowering extremists. In Syria, it was the Al-Qaeda-dominated insurgency. Inside Ukraine, it's the neo-Nazi infiltrated Ukrainian army, attracting extremists from around the world. Global jihadis came to Syria to fight against Assad. Same within Ukraine, you have extremists coming from around the world, right-wingers coming in, receiving U.S. weapons and NATO weapons to fight Russia. And it's putting, just like Syria, once again, the U.S. on the other side of a proxy war against the world's other top nuclear power, and raising the threat, just like in Syria, of direct military confrontation. So when Kuhn says he's afraid of this becoming another Syria, he wants the policies he supports are akin to Syria. And there were also people during the Syria conflict who wanted direct U.S. military intervention, and now he's replicating that for Ukraine as well.
Right. I mean, it already is Syria in a way, right? I mean, it's not. We're treating it like the way we treat Syria in some ways.
Absolutely, the country is a tool to fight a proxy war. There is a former U.S. diplomat named James Jeffrey. He was the top Trump envoy for Syria and for fighting ISIS. And he said during Trump's administration, he said he was talking about Syria. He said, "quote My job is to make Syria a quagmire for the Russians." That's what he said.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
so they're doing the exact same thing here in Ukraine.
That's saying the quiet part out loud, right? Now, someone asked Aaron. Someone asked something. I'm going to highlight this. Ivan Cuevas asked Aaron, some claim Zelensky is not really in control in Ukraine. Your thoughts? Now, this is an opportunity for me to remind people of something I meant to say at the beginning of the show, which is that we will be taking your questions at Call-In. We put the link to Call-In in the description in the YouTube video. So make sure you stop by Call-In. Call-In is a free app you can access on your phone, and you get to ask me and Aaron your questions.
Wilson, I'm sending you that James Jeffrey clip just so we can play it about the quagmire in the private chat. And so the question was,
say that out loud.
So the question is Zelensky really in charge?
Yeah, but why don't we get to that in Call-In?
Oh,
unless
right? Okay, no, sure, yeah, no, fair enough. We can answer that in the call.
Yeah. I'm really good.
Right,
I've mastered the keys.
Let's hear the rest of Chris Coons.
Okay.
This thirsty warmonger.
This is a weekend when so many families gather to celebrate the very best in the human spirit. And where we grieve the loss of many due to COVID, we should also be prayerful and mindful of those who are fighting for freedom in Ukraine and how much their heroism and patriotism inspires the rest of us.
And that's why I want to send more families that are currently celebrating Easter. I want to send their kids off to die in Ukraine for the cause of my proxy.
Not mine. Right. Not mine, yeah. By the way, totally superficial. Can we get back to that? I just have to point something out. Wilson, can you show it again?
Remarks this week, you said.
Right. It's interesting. They usually wear black mics. They got a little white mic going. And what that does, doesn't it look like a tag that you have to rip off? You know, those plastic things? Like
you just purchased it from the store?
Yeah. And then the tag, you take the tag off, but you still have that plastic thing. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Just a metaphor for the corporate commodification.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. That's what I wanted to make sure that we picked.
Do we have the quagmire clip?
In Afghanistan.
Here it is. This is James Jeffrey, top Trump envoy to Syria and to fight ISIS.
How recent is this, more or less?
Say it again.
When is this from? What time period?
This was like, I don't know. This was during the Trump administration. This is like a year or two ago.
Got it, yeah.
This isn't Afghanistan. This isn't Vietnam. This
guy in the bottom right is texting.
A quagmire. My job is to make it a. This isn't Afghanistan. This isn't Afghanistan. This isn't Vietnam. This isn't a quagmire. My job is to make it a quagmire for the Russians.
Oh my God! Great punchline.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That was said at a neocon think tank event, and
so he's saying it isn't. The problem with it is that it's not a quagmire yet.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying, he's like, my job is to make it a quagmire for the Russians. He's talking about Syria.
Right.
Yeah.
We got to raise
what we're trying to do now with Ukraine.
Status.
Yeah.
It's a crisis, Aaron. It was a crisis because it wasn't quagmire yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Who's on deck?
All right. Who do we got next? We got a little bit. Sorry. Who do we got next?
Well, we have Jake Tapper.
Oh, great. JT.
In Kiev with an exclusive interview with Zelensky, which means exclusive for whatever hour time slot Jake Tapper is in, because Zelensky, it seems like all he does is just speak to the media.
Right.
Nonstop. But I love how they call this some kind of exclusive when Zelensky is literally speaking to anyone who will talk to him. He's at the Grammys. He's at the Teen Choice Awards.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
He's like Tupac.
Yeah.
Hologram really style. And also, this is a State of the Union exclusive, perhaps for the State of the Union. It's the only one that they've done. Yeah.
What do you say to people either in Ukraine or elsewhere in the world who say, just give Putin the Donbass, just give Putin eastern Ukraine, stop the bloodshed, let him have the territory. What would your message be about that?
Багатовікова історія України стояла саме.
In the centuries-old history of Ukraine, there is the story that Ukraine has either taken some territory or needs to give up some territory.
Сьогодні України
Ukraine and the people of our state are absolutely clear.
абсолютно чітке, тверезе розуміння. Нам нічого чужого не потрібно.
We don't want anyone else's territory, and we are not going to give up our own.
So, first of all, there's something sad about this statement. So Zelensky's saying we're not going to give up any territory as part of a peace deal with Russia. And, from a certain perspective, it's kind of like, it's fair enough that when you're negotiating to stake a tough position, so you're not going to just give up. Like, all right, fine, yeah, like take our land. So I guess from that position, I understand that maybe it makes sense for him to say that. But
It's like when you're negotiating a salary, you go high.
Exactly. Yeah. So fair enough. But on the other hand, there's already been a peace agreement on the table since 2015, and officially Ukraine accepted the terms of it. It's called the Minsk Accords. We've talked about it. Signed in 2015, and it basically allowed for autonomy for the rebel Donbass regions, the Russian-speaking Donbass regions that resisted the coup of 2014. It gives them autonomy in exchange for their demilitarization. Ukraine signed on to it at a time when it was weak militarily because Obama, to his credit, I think, was resisting the calls of people like Joe Biden and Jake Sullivan and every other neocon in Washington to send weapons to Ukraine. Obama didn't want to do it. So that resulted in the Minsk Accords. But it's been, ever since Obama left office, Ukraine has refused to implement it, and the U.S. has encouraged Ukraine not to implement it. And ironically, it was Russia that, at least officially, accepted the terms of the Minsk Accords. So Russia, in its policy up until the invasion, actually recognized those rebel-held territories as being within Ukrainian borders. They just supported the idea of giving them some limited autonomy, but they still respected them staying a part of Ukraine's borders. Now, because of this invasion, that's off the table. And a major factor, I think, in this Russian invasion was the refusal by Kyiv to implement the Minsk Accords and to continue its war against the rebels in the east, where thousands of people have died. And so now you have Zelensky in this position where he's got to be tough. So he's saying, yeah, even Minsk basically is off of the table. And he's also insisting that Ukraine will take back Crimea, which for Russia is just a non-starter. Like, they'll never allow that. And so, I mean, it's like rhetorically, I think it's fair for him to say all this because you have to strike a hard bargain in public when you're in a war. But if that remains the position and privately, then it's going to mean a long time conflict because Russia will not budge on Crimea. It's it's a majority Russian speaking region. Polls show the people there want to be a part of Russia. It's home to Russia's most important naval base. So his words, okay, I get it, but in practice, it's a recipe for protracted conflict.
Right. And also we know that this is what the US wants, even though it won't say that explicitly, but they keep saying it's going to be a long haul.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So it's not what's scary is that you would think that, if we cared about democracy and civilians, we would not drag this out. But as we know, that's what they want because they see this as a possibility to weaken Putin. And also, of course, it's great for the arms industry.
Absolutely. And just as they were so confident that Russia would invade, I think a main reason why they were so confident is they knew that they were not going to budge on refusing to take NATO membership off the table for Ukraine. And they knew that that was a red line for Russia. They also knew that Ukraine was not going to budge on implementing Minsk because the U.S. was encouraging the U.S. not to implement Minsk behind the scenes. And so they knew that these things were red lines for Russia. And that's I think, contributed to their confidence that Russia would invade on. And at that point, they proved to be very correct.
Right. We got a question from Bill Cole. Aaron, how do you know that the U.S. urged Ukraine not to implement Minsk? You want to answer that during call-in? Or if you feel like it's relevant now.
It's so obvious that they didn't because if they had, as people like Stephen F. Cohen warned about in 2019, and in fact, I just have an article about this at my Substack, matt.substack.com, where I talk about Stephen F. Cohen saying in 2019, right after Zelensky was elected, that the only way Zelensky can implement Minsk is if the U.S. has his back against the Ukraine far right, which is threatening to kill him and overthrow his government if he implements Minsk. And so the only way that Minsk could happen is if the U.S. leveraged its critical support for Ukraine to push Minsk through. And they didn't. They actually, if you look at everything the Ukrainian government did, it was to abandon Minsk. And there's no way they would have done that, given the scale of U.S. support for Ukraine, without the U.S. basically telling them not to. And that's very, very clear. And I go through some of that in my article, which I will link to.
Awesome.
And the most important is the way my children look at me. They have to be proud of me. This is the most important thing. I do everything for this.
Is Ukraine going to win this war?
Yes, of course. And will.
Thank you so much for your time, President Zelensky.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck. Best of luck with what you do.
Thanks so much.
Best of luck with what you do, which is act.
Which is
Really
act, yeah,
excited
exactly.
for a new series. Loved your last one. Yeah, which
A
is now
follow-up
on
should have been like,
Netflix.
are you acting right now as you normally are because you are an actor after all,
Yeah.
or do you actually think that Ukraine will win against
Right.
a far
Yeah,
superior
maybe this
army?
whole time we got it wrong. This is just another character he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he did play a Ukrainian prime minister in that show.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Which was trending on Netflix. I don't know if it still is, but it was a couple.
I've heard it's a great show. Everyone likes it. Yeah,
I know,
everyone
that's
likes
the sad thing. I mean, as you pointed out so many times, he came in as a, he ran on a pro-peace line and then wasn't able to deliver.
He had an overwhelming mandate, more than 70% of the vote to make peace. People in the East, Russian speakers, they were excited. There was genuine excitement when he came in. And he said in his inaugural address, I'm going to take risks for peace, even if it costs me politically. And then you know what the Ukraine far right said in response? A top leader of the far right, someone from a group called the Right Sector, or one of those groups, it's in my article, said, no, he's not going to he's not going to have political consequences. He's going to lose his life if he implements the Minsk Accord. And that's what he faced. And that's why it was important for the U.S. to have his back. But what did the U.S. do? That, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, they went to the front lines and they said, 2017 will be the year of offense, and we're going to make Russia pay a price. And then when Trump briefly paused some weapons to Ukraine, as he tried to pressure them to investigate Joe Biden, the Democrats impeached him and said that this act of pausing weapons to Ukraine endangered U.S. national security. So that was the response by the U.S. to Zelensky's election in 2019, was basically impeaching Trump for briefly pausing the weapons that were fueling the war that Zelensky was elected to end.
Servant of the people. That's what he started out as. Also
Yep.
the name of his show. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, who's up next?
So shifting gears from Jake Tapper, from JT, we got Fred Upton.
Welcome back. Last week, Michigan Congressman Fred Upton, one of 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach Donald Trump.
All right. Well, since you want to start it at the time code that's in the doc, it's
7:19.
Yeah. Because we don't want 7 minutes of Fred Upton. He's a retiring Republican Congress member who's on his way out because he got redistricted, and so he doesn't think.
Yeah, we don't want 7 minutes of him because he's so charismatic. It'll make us look very boring in contrast.
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Boy, very quickly at you. You were just in the region of Ukraine. Let me just a simple question. Is the United States doing enough to help Ukraine?
We have to do everything we can. Let me just tell you, the Ukraine folks, so brave. They are fighting for us.
Yeah.
It was a bipartisan trip that I went on. We have to make sure that they have every tool to make sure that they can survive.
It sounds like you think we can do a little bit more.
We can.
Okay, two things here.
Thanks for
watching. First of all, he says they're fighting for us. You hear that?
Oh, yeah.
So Ukrainians dying in Ukraine are really fighting for Republicans in Michigan or wherever Upton's from.
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, and that speaks to they see these people as sacrificial lambs, as cannon fodder. They're fighting for us.
You know what it reminds me of? That
What's
great
that?
hit by Adam Schiff when he said, "We're fighting Russia. We're fighting them over there, so we don't have to fight them over here."
Exactly, and that shows how bipartisan this policy is. But look, we missed one thing, so let's go back to 719. There's something that Chuck did that was so funny when he asked the question. Watch Chuck's hands as he asks his question.
Boy, very quickly at you. You were just in the region of Ukraine. Let me just a simple question. Is the United States doing enough to help Ukraine?
We have to do everything we can. Let me
just
just
love how
tell
he,
you.
I love how he asked the question and he like punctuates it with like a.
Yeah. It's so leading, the question too, right?
It's cool seeing it in replay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so that's Upton, and
Makes him look like he has a hoof, kind of,
exactly. Yeah.
or a trotter.
Anyway, that's the Congress member saying that Ukraine's fighting for us. Perhaps news to Ukrainians.
Yeah, seriously, that changes a lot. Yeah, I wonder how they feel about that.
Is going to pass.
Okay, so this is retired U.S. General Ben Hodges, the former commander of U.S. forces in Europe, and he's on Face the Nation.
Well, we hear from the administration that the aim of all this is to strengthen Ukraine's hand at a negotiating table. But we've heard from the Ukrainians, there's no table to sit at right now. Are you saying it doesn't look to you like the administration has decided they want Ukraine to win? They just want a stalemate?
I would say that I don't hear the administration talking about winning. I'm reluctant to say that the administration doesn't want them to win, but what needs to be stated is what is our objective, the United States? You know, we're not just observers cheering for Ukraine here. This is about democracy across Europe and stopping an autocracy. And so, and of course, the Chinese are watching. So there are implications well beyond Mariupol or even Kyiv. And
so you hear that, Katie? So we have a Republican member of Congress saying that Ukrainians are fighting for us, right? So Ukrainians are dying for Americans somehow. And now Ben Hodges is saying, well, look, yeah, this fight isn't just about Ukraine. The Chinese are watching.
Yeah.
So we gotta beat the Russians in Ukraine because the Chinese are watching. It's like that's like it's like you help start a fight in the schoolyard, and you know both sides are taking serious wounds, and someone wants to stop the fighting and be like, no, wait a second, the others, our rival, junior bully is watching. Yeah. So no, keep fighting. We got to teach them a lesson.
Yeah, as they're bloody.
If the United States were to say, we want to win, that means all Russian forces back to pre-24 February, all Ukrainians who have been deported brought back home immediately, a long-term commitment to the full restoration of Ukrainian sovereignty. That means Crimea and Donbass. And then finally, breaking the back of Russia's ability to project power outside of Russia, to threaten Georgia, to threaten Moldova, to threaten our Baltic allies.
Ben Hodges, thank you for your analysis this morning. Happy Easter.
Thank you, Mark.
Also, we got a question. Oh, keep going. Sorry, Aaron. Yeah.
Happy Easter as you egg on World War III.
Yeah. Well, right. He is risen. Maybe that's why they're not worried about this, because they believe in resurrections. So all the Ukrainians who are being killed.
Possibly.
I'm just spitballing here. Yeah. I went to an Easter service, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. My first one. It was good. I really like the analysis that the pastor shared. Mm-hmm. It's Episcopalian, so whatever those ones are. It was good. My friend is a section leader. He's a singer. So I went to hear him sing. Yeah, it was great.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cute
little kids. They did a little Easter egg hunt afterwards. Another question we can address now or during call-in. Hidden Profit. I've been seeing a report that Ukraine is releasing criminals from prison who were involved in war crimes like rape of enemy children. Is this true?
I heard that, but I think I just saw that on Twitter.
Right, so we don't have confirmation.
I can't confirm that.
Yeah. Another super chat that we missed was someone asking about Gonzalo Lira.
Yes, he is a Chilean journalist who is based in Ukraine, and he hasn't been heard from in a while on social media, so people are concerned about him. But I heard that actually there's just power cuts in his neighborhood. Oh, and I don't know that for sure, but that's what I heard. And so I have no idea. But
so cancel the Amber Alert.
He did say at one point on Twitter that if you don't hear from me within 24 hours, you should be worried. And that window has passed, but it's also possible that there was a power cut. Now there is though, and this has been overlooked in the coverage of Ukraine. There has been a real crackdown on independent journalists, on leftists. I mean, Zelensky banned all these opposition parties in Ukraine after Russia invaded. Though tellingly, he did not ban the Azov Battalion and other far right parties. He only went after leftists. So there has been a crackdown on dissidents. There have been mayors of Ukrainian towns killed. People who advocate negotiations or coordination with Russia, they've been killed. There's a new article about this up at thegrayzone.com that goes through some of these allegations. But in terms of Gonzalo Lira's whereabouts, I have no idea. If he is in Ukrainian custody, I hope he'll be released immediately. But I also don't want to sow panic because it could just be a power outage.
Right. Right. Either way, we hope he's released or we hope the power is restored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bring back the power. Another cover of that great song. I got the power is what he would like to be able to sing. Right now he's singing, I lost the power.
Absolutely. Let's hope. Let's hope that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah. We also have, I think we have a really important, I think, Wilson, did you get the clip I just sent? Okay, so this is, we skipped over this one. I think it's clear why. There's so many pro-war clips, it's hard to keep track. So I'm glad we're not letting this one slip through the cracks. Because if you thought he was belligerent before, we're going back to Face the Nation, Chris Coons.
Vladimir Putin, who has shown us how brutal he can be, is allowed to just continue to massacre civilians, to commit war crimes throughout Ukraine without.
I don't mind hearing this again because it's such
we did play this, right?
But
you're right.
This is just an excerpt of the longer clip we played before.
You're right. It is an excerpt of it, but it's is that the one he says something about boots on the ground?
Sure. I mean, if you want to run it back.
Was that already in that? Did we already hear him say the boots on the ground?
Yeah.
thing?
I mean, this is the clip we saw, but if you want to run it back, and again, it's so crazy. And the fact that it's coming from a top Democratic lawmaker, him advocating for U.S. troops on the ground is,
I think I was distracted by the other stuff that we were talking about with him. So let's play this again.
NATO, without the West coming more forcefully to his aid, I deeply worry that what's going to happen next is that we will see Ukraine turn into Syria. The American people cannot turn away from this tragedy in Ukraine. I think the history of the 21st century turns on how fiercely we defend freedom in Ukraine, and that Putin will only stop when we stop him. I'll close with this, Mark.
Okay. So the way that Margaret Brennan tweeted this out was Chris Coons says the U.S. needs to talk about sending troops to Ukraine.
Let's talk about troops, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be.
Of World War III.
Oh, I like that. That's really good.
Sorry, everybody. We started the snowball, and it just
we started the snowball effect.
It keeps picking up steam.
Yeah. Snow, is that who's Snow?
Snow is behind the hit Informer.
Informer.
White Canadian singing a reggae, like a dance hall style track. Great song. Great song. But a very white Canadian.
Very white Canadian.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you're a white Canadian, you're really white. You're like Snow White.
There
white
you go.
As snow. Wow.
There we go.
For a chance, U.S. War Machine.
Yeah.
That is a good slogan.
Some people think they're just here for some, media critique of the Sunday morning news show. Sorry. You're here for puns. And you're here for a lot of 90s references. That's what you're really here for.
And you're here for really good covers.
Great covers. Fantastic.
Great covers. Yeah. In fact, we're going to have to turn them into full-length songs.
Again, our 90s compilation keeps getting longer. It's crazy.
Wilson, will you write down all of our pieces of genius so that we know so we can keep track and then write them into full-length covers?
Yeah, we'll do a whole album. People in the chat, remind me of everyone that in case I miss any, remind me of all of them.
We've done, let's see, we did I Got the Power. What was it? I Got the Power, Informer, Pump Up Demand. Okay.
As Wilson starts writing this, he's actually going to turn this into his letter of resignation.
Yeah, seriously. It's going to be bullet points.
He's like, no, fuck this shit. I'm like writing down stupid 90s pun songs.
Or he may steal it.
That's true, Wilson. Okay, Wilson, we have a copyright on these. Don't
Yeah, we got
dare
it.
think about it.
Yeah, we're patenting this.
All right, let's head back to the Sunday shows.
Yeah. We got what do we got next? We have some we got some insights. Those are all the ones in the Aaron list, right? Wilson? Yes. So we got some great insights from Donna Brazil.
Donna Brazil. All right, we got that one next. Oh, this is a good one.
Atmosphere for Republicans is better than it was in 1994, which leads you to ask the question, how could you screw this up? It's actually possible. You can't nominate somebody who's just sort of unacceptable to a broader group of people and win.
Bit of a warning there from Mitch McConnell against a backdrop of Republican gains, anticipated Republican gains in the midterm elections. Let's talk about it in our roundtable with Chris Christie, Donna Brazil, our congressional correspondent Rachel Scott, and we want to welcome our newest ABC contributor, Maria Elena Salinas. Welcome. Good to have you here. Great to be here. So Donna, Mitch McConnell referenced 1994, complete bloodbath for Democrats. Is that what it's going to take for Democrats to hold?
I think he said bloodbath.
He did. Bloodbath. Yeah.
I mean, fair enough. You know, we all have our tongue twists, but I thought that was funny. Bloodbath.
Bloodbath.
Hold on, survive in midterm elections for Republicans to
famous
screw up.
Blathist.
Say it again.
Saddam Hussein, Blathist, Saddam Hussein. The
Blathist party. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Absolutely, George. And all we have to do is wait over the next 37 days as 11 or 12 states hold their primaries. You have big primaries in Ohio and North Carolina, Pennsylvania, where the former president has already tipped the scales in support of one candidate over another. The Republicans are essentially running on fumes. They're running on the energy of 2020, which is the big lie. Democrats are running on an economy that's roaring back, that is...
Style break. What is that color of her top? Because I love it.
It is a good color. Aqua, I would say.
Yeah, that's like one of the best jackets I've seen on the Sunday News Show. I think it's fantastic.
Well,
I would wear that.
It kind of matches this.
It matches your mug. Yeah.
It's greener than the mug, though, but I think it is a good color. It's like a mint or an aqua.
Yeah.
Aqua mint.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah. Fans of the show, send Aaron a shirt in that color. Do you
Please.
have a T-shirt in that color?
I have T-shirts in that color, but I want a blazer in that color.
Blazer, yeah. Oh my God, that'd be great.
Fighting inflation, that is helping the Ukrainians. Democrats will run on what they've delivered. Republicans are going to run on the fumes of 2020.
I'm sorry, really quickly. Someone wrote Tiffany blue. Can we go back to, let's see. No. It's close, but it's too green. And someone wrote seafoam. I think seafoam is more muted.
I also see Miami Vice teal.
Miami, did someone put that in? That's good.
Yeah.
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 If you want to see a good seafoam jacket, I'll show you a seafoam jacket. Hold on.
So what is Donna Brazil saying here? She's saying that it's the Republicans who are on the fumes of 2020 and Democrats are looking ahead. I'm sorry, I was so consumed with the jacket and figuring out the color.
It's a pretty good jacket, yeah. Let's see. Should we replay it?
Sure. I see also Robin's Egg blue.
It's Robin's Egg is bluer.
Toxic Ranch turquoise or turquoise. Sorry, Toxic Ranch turquoise.
I like that.
Oh, I said turquoise.
Turquoise. I like that. Right. You are French. I mean, you are Canadian. You're not French Canadian, but you're closer to being French Canadian than I am, for instance.
Yes, that's
You're
true.
halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which leads you to ask the question, how could you screw this up? It's actually possible. You can't nominate somebody who's just sort of unacceptable to a broader group of people and win.
Bit of a warning there from Mitch McConnell against a backdrop of Republican gains, anticipated Republican gains in the midterm elections. Let's talk about it in our roundtable with Chris Christie, Donna Brazil, our congressional correspondent Rachel Scott, and And we want to welcome our newest ABC contributor, Maria Elena Salinas. Welcome. Good to have you here. Great to be here. So Donna, Mitch McConnell referenced 1994, complete bloodbath for Democrats. Is that what it's going to take for Democrats to hold on, survive in midterm elections, for Republicans to screw up?
Absolutely, George. And all we have to do is wait over the next 37 days as 12 states hold their primaries. You have big primaries in Ohio and North Carolina, Pennsylvania, where the former president has already tipped the scales in support of one candidate over another. The Republicans are essentially running on fumes. They're running on the energy of 2020, which is the big lie. Democrats are running on an economy that's roaring back, that is fighting inflation, that is helping the Ukrainians. Democrats will run on what they've delivered. Republicans are going to run on the fumes of 2020.
Sounds a little optimistic.
Yeah.
Overly optimistic, I mean.
It's because they're in opposition, and it's always easier to just run against the party in power. So I don't know if to say that they're running on the fumes of 2020 is accurate when, you know, if you look at Biden, what can he really point to in terms of his accomplishments, especially now with the war in Ukraine consuming everything else. So yeah, I think she's definitely being optimistic.
Yeah. Delusional, perhaps.
And given that Democrats spend so much time focusing on January 6th, you know, you could argue, I think, pretty plausibly that they're trying to run on the fumes of January 6th, 2021.
Right. By the way, I do have, you want to see a seafoam, something seafoam?
Sure.
Wilson, I'm going to show this to you. All right. I texted it to you. Not only do you get puns, all the jams, you also get pretty good fashion analysis. All right, scroll down, please. That's seafoam.
Nice top. Yeah, also very nice.
Oh, good top. And also, so that's Marianne Williamson wearing what I would definitely define as a seafoam jacket. Blazer. Yeah.
Well,
Azov blue. Someone suggested it's Azov blue. Biden blue. Bloodbath blue. Yeah. Mark Silverstein says, I don't see foam. See, we're encouraging puns across the nation.
We were. We deserve that one.
Yeah.
We deserve that one. All right. Yeah. Do we have any more clips?
There have been a lot of requests for us to have people give me Stelter. So
yeah, we got
Stelter. All right.
I think it's time to do it. Everybody's been waiting for it all week.
Fair enough.
There are big holes in the story about the Moskva, the flagship of Russia's black.
By the way, speaking of Stelter, right now we have close to 2,000 people watching us live. So that is about 20% of the CNN Plus audience right here with us now. Because apparently 10,000 people have been using CNN Plus. 10,000 people, which is like, and if that was like what one of our videos got on YouTube, that would be bad for us. That would be embarrassing.
Right. Yeah, true that. CNN minus.
A warship that now rests at the bottom of the sea. It's described as the biggest wartime loss of a naval ship in 40 years. But there's very little vetted information about what happened. There were no reporters, no witnesses when the ship began to sink. So what we're left with are dueling storylines, with Ukraine claiming to have hit it with anti-ship missiles and Russia trying to say otherwise, claiming a fire broke out on board the warship. That's what caused the ammunition to explode. That's what damaged the vessel and forced the crew to evacuate. A more complicated story, right? There's no way for news outlets to truly get to the bottom of it. But consider this. The normal crew on the Moskva would have been about 500 sailors. I
keep thinking he's saying mitzvah, which is a good deed in Yiddish and Hebrew and Yiddish, yeah.
Do you want to know what I think he's doing?
What?
My theory is he's preparing us for a similar monologue about what really happened to CNN Plus when it went down under the sea and imploded. officially the media tells you that less than 10,000 people were watching, but were they there?
Were they there?
Were they inside the servers of CNN Plus? We'll never know. We'll never know what happened to this $250 million
That's a good insight,
project
Aaron.
that went down in flames.
Right.
The fog of war.
You know what the theme song for CNN Plus is?
What's that?
Under the sea. Under the sea. Under the sea. Under the sea. That's from Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. Yep.
Yeah. We don't know whether the entire crew was on board when the ship began to sink. But we do know that in a free society, family members and neighbors and lawmakers would be demanding answers from the government. Then again, we also know Russia is not a free society. Even asking questions about this could raise red flags in Moscow. Now, Russia's Ministry of Defense did put out some video on Saturday. Here it is, showing dozens of sailors, allegedly those who escaped from the Moskva. The number of sailors in this formation is unclear, but it's not 500. And they look remarkably fresh-faced for a group that's just endured a harrowing rescue at sea. Skepticism must be applied very liberally to this. Now, at least one crew member was reported killed.
I love Brian Stelter, the apostle for every national security state scam, Russiagate, the Russian bounties in Afghanistan, Hunter Biden's laptop being Russian disinformation, Havana syndrome, where Russia is beaming microwave weapons at U.S. diplomats. He's preaching about the importance of skepticism. Oh, man.
So crazy.
It's got to be tiring being, right? He looks tired, and I get it. It's got to be tiring being so disingenuous.
Yeah.
Has been publicly mourned on a Russian social networking site. A widow posted that her husband, quote, fought to his last breath for the life of the ship. So we know that from a stray social media post. How many more were like him? How many others? In war, so many of the dead are not even counted. In Ukraine.
Again, it's a good analog for his coming up monologue on CNN Plus. Mary L. in Boise said that she was watching CNN Plus every single day, nonstop. Right. How many more are like her? How many more erased faces, CNN Plus fans, are we not hearing from?
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Right now, their stories never even told. Will we ever know the full story of the Moskva? Or will it be warped by propaganda and the truth never revealed?
CNN Plus. Will we ever know the truth about CNN Plus? I don't think so, Katie. We'll never know.
No. It would be a plus if we could.
Yeah. You know how they have memorials to ships that are downed? Remember the USS, whatever, Liberty, whatever, remember the CNN Plus.
Remember the CNN Plus, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they would go to war for Zucker, for the Zuck.
That's right.
Zucker.
Right.
As none other than Brian Stelter said, yeah.
Yeah. They will go to war for him.
So crazy. He's a heat shield.
He's a heat shield. That's right. That's a callback, everybody. That's a callback.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a regular Useful Idiots viewer, you'll remember that one.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
we learned a lot.
We learned a lot today.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe so you don't ever miss any of these, by the way. You just hit subscribe and then the bell. That's also very important to do.
How are we doing on our to?
Yeah, what's our likes right now? Because we got 2,036 people watching, which we very much thank you for. How many likes do we have? Wilson, do you know? Or let's see. Someone tell us in the viewers how many likes we got. How do we see this? Let's see. I just don't want to.
We're at 970 right now.
All right, let's get those numbers up, everybody. We're below 50% in our to viewer.
There we go. Hit 1,000.
Ratio.
So you see, we hit 1,000. Thank you, guys. I mean,
thanks, everybody.
We should still hit at least 1,005, 1,006. So we're halfway. So we got half of our. We should get 1,006 because then we're half.
I think we should do one of those things. We should be one of those channels where we have 2,000 viewers, but somehow we have 3,500 likes, and it's clear that it's just bots and all comments.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the next step for Useful Idiots.
That's nice. Yeah.
But Katie, what I hear you saying is that we're halfway there.
We're halfway there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is more than 1K.
And we're living on a prayer. We're living on a prayer to get up to all the way there.
Which reminds me of when I used to work at the docks.
Yeah, you used to work at the docks?
With Johnny.
Yeah. Of course you did. Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to hold on to what we have. It does to what we got.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't make a difference if we make it or not, because we got each other, and that's a lot.
That's right, Katie. We do.
Yeah.
All right.
Why don't let's give Colin a shot.
Let's give Colin a shot. That's right. So, guys, 1 hour with us is not nearly enough. So, luckily for you, we have the perfect solution. You can move over to Colin and join us there right after this ends to talk more about the show today and anything else on your mind. And
we got the link in there, right, Wilson?
Yep, it's in the description.
Great. All right, awesome. So I think we learned a lot, and I think we can just transition to Colin, right?
Yes, we can.
Someone points out, by the way, Bon Jovi was, where's this thing? Bon Jovi was essentially a modern day Bob Dylan lyrically. Hot take.
Oops, excuse me.
I like that take.
Well, that's our cue to go anyway.
Yeah, Aaron's getting a call. Someone's like, yes, I agree. That genius Bon Jovi thing. A couple of people have asked if we're in jail. No, we're not in jail. Don't be fooled. Someone said it looks like we're waiting to hear from our parole officers. But yeah. All right. So guys, see you at Colin. Anything else you want to say?
No. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Rest of your day.
Yeah. Oh, and hit the like if you haven't. But yeah, see you at Colin. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.